Scooby. You want another Scooby snack? This is Scooby, and this is Scooby's roadmap to success. Isn't he a good-looking boy? Scooby is a 5-year-old American Bulldog, and basically he has some issues of being aggressive towards other dogs. And he had been with other dogs, but he didn't go to puppy school, so I'm thinking this is a compound problem. I think there's a lot of issues here. Let me see if I can get you back up here. There we go, buddy. So I think what's going on is we have a dog that was a little under-socialized as a puppy, doesn't have a lot of rules or structure. He's a low-energy dog, so he doesn't need a ton of exercise, but he probably could use a little bit more exercise. I think, like I said, more than anything else, I think he was confused as to where his position is. That'd be a way to say, please. Boy, is that nail long. You got to trim these nails. The problem with nails is if they get too long, especially in the wintertime in the Midwest, they can often split down the axis. And I've had several clients who had to amputate the nail completely, and it requires surgery and it never comes back. So for a dog like this that's white, the nails are translucent. So I would get a Dremel, and I like a Dremel because you can round them off so they're nice and soft. So in the video above, we talked about the focus exercise. I'm going to go through kind of how we can build on that exercise, because the guardians were asking kind of what the roadmap is or how do we get to the next stage. So we don't want to put him just in a situation around other dogs because he's not prepared for it. So the very first stage, what we want to do is we want him to start seeing himself, thank you, buddy, as being a follower. And the ways and I'm going to talk about all the different ways we identified after I describe what we're going to do first, but I'm describing it here first just for proximity purposes. Make sure you're doing this kind of one of the last things that you're doing. So basically, for the focus exercise, once we've taught our dog to focus consistently, independent of other dogs, what we want to do is we want to start helping them practice looking away from other dogs. So what I do is I would suggest the guardian, we were talking about different options, I would go to the dog park. Now we're not going into the dog park. What we're going to do is go to the dog park around 4:30 to about 6 o'clock. That's kind of probably the busiest time of the day. What we want to do is we want to find an area that's away from the gate or the entrance to the dog park, so that the dogs are not walking towards us. So we're kind of if the dog park is here and the camera is where the dog is, or people are going to be parking in the parking lot, we want to be on this side or that side so that people are not walking towards the dog. So the idea is, what I've found is a dog won't sit if they feel that something's a threat. They want to be standing. So what I would do is walk about maybe 20 yards away from the entrance to begin with. And if he's reacting, you won't even need to do that. The idea is move far enough away where he can be seated and see other dogs walking in the park and not get up. So we have to find, first of all, what distance that is so we know our starting point. So let's say it's 50 yards. So we have 50 yards and he watches a dog get out of the car, go to the dog park and go inside the dog park, and he doesn't react or get up out of a sit. Okay, so now the next time what we do is we put him in a sit and we watch and you get to see the people come in their parking car and park in the parking lot. As soon as he looks at the other dog, give him like 1 or 2 seconds. If he doesn't look up at you on his own, say the word focus. As soon as he does, do the focus exercise. And while you're doing the focus exercise, you're doing the 15-second version of it. Now you might have to start off by going to like a 10-second or 5-second version, or you might have to practice at the dog park without any dogs there and build up that memory so that he will be able to achieve a 15-second focus. So the idea is you see somebody get out of the car, the dog gets out, he starts staring, you say focus, he looks up at you, you're doing this for 15 seconds. And then if he's going to react, then you maybe do another treat where you do another focus. The idea is you're distracting him away as that dog's walking into the park. What we want to do, eventually accomplish is when he sees another dog, we want him to voluntarily look away from the other dog. I call this an autofocus. So we want to keep on doing this. So we give so as soon as somebody gets out of the car, we give him 1 or 2 seconds of looking. If he doesn't look up on his own, we say focus. As soon as he looks at us, we do the 15 seconds. Eventually what will happen if you're doing this within 1 or 2 seconds of him seeing the other dog when you give the focus command, eventually he's going to see another dog and he's going to automatically look up at you without needing a command. That's huge. That's what you're looking for. When he does that, that's when I would give him a jackpot. When he does that first time he looks up, give him a treat, say focus, pull out 5 more treats, give him focus, focus. We want him saying, well, what did I just do? I just got 6 treats. These are delicious. How did I get this? Looking away from the other dog got me 6 treats. Now, he won't know it initially. You're going to have to repeat it, but eventually, he'll start looking away every time he sees another dog. When you get 5 times in a row at that 50-yard distance, when he sees the other dog, he immediately looks up at you, and you do the focus exercise. Another dog comes, same thing, looks up at you. Now you're ready to start collapsing the distance. The next step is going to be to take 1 step closer. So instead of being 50 yards away, or 50 feet, or whatever it was, You're going to do it at 49. And then you keep on practicing there until he gives you an auto watch at 49 feet. Then go to 48, 47, 46. You're going to be tempted to go from 40 to 30. Usually that will screw you up. This method, if you do it properly and take your time, is a permanent solution for his life. If you cheat, you might get a quick gain, but it probably is going to revert back to the way he is now. So just take your time. If it seems slow and boring, you're doing it right. So remember, if he is reacting at all, he's not going to learn anything. He's essentially hysterical, and all he's doing is practicing reacting to the other dogs. So in the meantime, while you're on a walk, if you see another dog on the walk, turn and walk the other direction. Walk around a car, something that blocks his sight, and give that other dog the ability to go. I know it's not convenient for you, but we don't want him to practice any aggression towards any of your dogs in any capacity we can help. Now, when you're on walks and you come to a yard where you know there's dogs out there and they run and chain up to the fence, well, then you know that's where he's going to be reactive to. So as you're walking towards that house, start watching him and look for his warning signs. Is his head lowered? Does his ear come forward? Does his tail go up? Does his hackles go up? Does he lick his lips or bare his teeth? Is he growling? Is he breathing heavy or holding his breath? Is he stiff? Those are all warning signs. So as soon as you start seeing him give the warning signs, you want to give him the focus exercise, get him to look up at you, and that's why we're walking and doing the 15-second focus. The idea eventually is to walk past his house with him looking up at you and not reacting towards those dogs. And right now, even if the dogs are not in the yard, he probably gets stiff and growls a little bit. And so the idea is helping him practice passing by that house without being reactive. The idea in the dog park is to practice looking away from other dogs and not being reactive. So the more that he does these things, this is awesome. He's such an awesome dog. But the more that he does things, the more he's practicing social, proper, positive behaviors. And after he practices enough, that just becomes the default. Now, this is, for a lot of my clients, this is achieved by incorporating rules and structure without needing to do the focus exercise. I want the guardians to do all these at first, all these together, but at first we want to start, and really at this point. So we're going to talk about exercise. Different forms of exercise. He likes chasing the laser, but now he knows to look at the laser. So anytime your dog is using you're using laser to exercise your dog, if it looks up at the laser, make sure you take your finger off it or turn it off, or cap your hand on it so he doesn't see the laser. He'll think it jumped on the floor or went to the laser. So get a completely different laser, a different shape, a different delivery device, or whatever you want to call it, so that it doesn't look like the same thing. And when you first get it, leave no batteries in it, and just click it on and off every once in a while. Watch TV, pick it up, and kind of do it like you're lazing in the room, but without the presence of the dot. So after a while, when you pick this thing up or click and he doesn't even look, that's when you're ready to start doing the laser. But at first when you do it, I'd be very, very, very quick, and just maybe run around a corner real quick, and then you run, and make sure that when you turn it off, it's when it disappears from his line of sight. So he runs around the corner looking for it, and then it's just you turn it off and he wanders around looking for it. The idea for the laser is to exercise him or distract him. Now, some dogs get really manic about the laser, and it's not healthy for them. If your dog is too excited about the laser, probably not a good idea. The laser, chasing laser in the basement or whatever, can be a great way to burn off a little excess energy. Another thing to do would be run up and down the stairs. So toss the treat, say the word lobby when he goes down, or penthouse when he comes up, whatever your funny words are. And count each down up as one. And the first time you do it, like I said, with an empty stomach, keep doing it until he stops coming up or down. Now you know what his maximum number is, and you would practice at about 50 to a third of what his maximum number is. Another one would be fetch. He loves to play fetch. Remember, the problem with fetch is he won't drop. Well, he won't drop because the guardians pull things away from him. That makes them high-value items. So for the drop, every time he's got something in his mouth, and he's holding his mouth, not like he's holding with his paws, just his mouth, pull out a treat, touch his nose, and hold it right here. Don't give him any command. Just wait. And as soon as he puts it down, pop the treat in his mouth, say the word drop, and don't show any interest in the item. And this is something you just want to do casually when you're watching TV or doing whatever. Eventually you'll say drop, and he'll just spit it out because it means I get my stuff back and I get a really good reward. And if he steals high value items, let me know, and I can talk to you about a trade, but we're not going to cover it here because I don't think he does that. Let me see. So other forms of exercise, like I said, the fetch is a great one, but you need to teach him to drop first. And scent games is also a wonderful one because it makes them use their brain, and they're using their sniffer, which controls 60% of their brain. So just go to Google and Google scent, S-C-E-N-T games, and there are books on it, but it's basically hiding treats or hiding things around the house, and he's got to find them. That's very stimulating as well as physically draining for him. So exercise is number one. And the second thing I asked about were rules. He really doesn't have a lot of rules. For dogs, a lack of rules can confuse them into thinking you're peers. And if you're peers, then listening to you is optional. But some dogs consider themselves to be superior or responsible for their humans. When they come up and nudge the human or they tell the human what to do and the human does it, well, that reinforces that, yes, I'm in charge of the humans. But then when I see another dog, I growl at the other dog, I get stiff, I'm telling the humans, don't get another other dog. I don't like the looks of that other dog. But you don't listen to your dog because you don't respect his authority figure. Or you don't know what his warning signs are, the stiffness, the staring, the ears coming forward, the stuff I talked about earlier. So we don't recognize that. So he gets stressed thinking these humans are putting themselves in danger and they don't listen to me. And since I can't get them to listen to me and keep themselves out of danger, I have to now make the danger move away. And so a lot of dogs act aggressive towards other dogs because they're insecure, or as a defense mechanism, or as a way of making the other dog move away. I'm going to act really aggressive, and that will make the other dog move back. Well, the other option is to get our dog out of there on our own so the dog sees that we're getting them out of there. That's one of the reasons the focus exercise works so well. We take their focus away from the other dog. Now they're going to be open-minded to listen to us, and then we move them away from the other dog or give the other dog the ability to pass. But in order for him to start to see himself as being a follower, we need to start acting like leaders in the dog's perception. And for dogs, they're kind of all about us being blue-collar workers. They need to see us actually doing something for us to be perceived as being a leader. And leaders are the ones who enforce rules consistently. So one of the ways we could do it is by incorporating rules. One of the rules, the guardians were just joking, I was saying not being allowed on the couch for a minimum of 30 days or as long as the problem's still going on. Most of my clients here you said 30 days. 30 days is the bare minimum. I would recommend getting a dog bed and putting the dog bed under the TV or somewhere in the room and tossing treats on the dog bed and come up with a command word that means to go to the dog bed. I call it beach or Jamaica or Tahoe or something, a vacation or a destination or something like that. So every time the dog licks up the treat, we say Jamaica. Well, after a while, the dog's just going to start hanging out on the dog bed because every time I come over here, there's a treat. Well, the first way we do it is to entice him to go there. So when he's hanging out in the room, we toss a treat on the dog bed. He goes over, licks up, we say Jamaica. Then he leaves it, we do it again. I do that like about 10 treats, 2 or 3 times a day. After a while, he just starts, you'll start notice him kind of like looking at Jamaica and going over there more and more often. The other ways I can do it is leaving a treat there and not telling him. And when he goes over and licks it up, we say the word Jamaica when he licks it up. Or I can leave him there, put him at sit or LAY, give him a treat and say Jamaica for that as well. These are to entice him to go there. After a while, he'll go there on his own. When he does, toss a treat after he goes there. So at first, if I go here, or I go here because the treat's here, after a while, now when I go here, treats fall from the sky. Well, this is a pretty good place to hang out. And so we're saying the word Jamaica every single time. And after a while, he'll start sitting and laying down there. And that's kind of a good place for him to be because that's where he gets a lot of treats. Now you've kind of conditioned him to away from the couch. You have a place you can put him if he's being, doing something you don't want him to do. And it creates a better, healthier leader-follower dynamic because the higher a dog sits, the more rank or status they have. Since he's being protective, removing the status level of height is really important for him. So at the end of, now if he gets up without our permission, what I would do is touch his nose with a treat, throw it on the ground, and when he jumps down to lick it up, I would say the word off. Then I would grab an X mat, the letter X, M-A-T-S, and I would put that on the couch so that it blocks him from getting back up there. You need to get 3 of them, and every time you leave and he's here by himself, put those on the couch cushions and make sure there's a dog bed. I always get a dog bed when we're taking away the furniture. And after a while, he'll be comfortable hanging out in the dog bed, and it's a nice place for him to be. And then if you want to invite him on the furniture, you do that on a permission per each occurrence basis. So you invite him up on the furniture and then he starts growling at the mailman, you have to get down. Or if you invite him up and he goes to get a drink of water, when he comes back, you need another invitation to get up on the couch. I would do the same thing with the bed, but I'm guessing the guardians are not going to do that with the bed. So instead of saying you can't be on the bed for a month, what I would do is I would just say that he has to get permission to get onto the bed. The humans get on the bed first, they get in their positions they want, then they invite him up after. For dogs, whoever's in front is perceived to be the leader, literally. So if we get on the couch, on the bed first, which is a very desirable position, and then we invite him up after, we're controlling the resource, and we're doing it first. Those are 2 subtle ways to help him start to see and identify as being in a follower position. Other rules would be not being allowed within 7 feet of a human who's eating. Do not feed him any more people food. I didn't mention this during the session, but I promise you, if you were eating a plate of poop, you would be just as interested in the poop as your French fries or chicken nuggets. Dogs want what they don't have. So you're not doing him any favors, and you're really confusing him as to not showing you respect as by giving you some space while you have a high value item, which he would definitely do if another dog came near him when he was chewing, even if he wasn't dog aggressive. So when you're eating, he should be within 7 feet of you. When you're cooking in the kitchen, you want he shouldn't be in the kitchen when you're in there cooking. The rest of the time he can come and go as he pleases, but not when you're cooking. Let me see other rules. Have to sit before I let you in or out the door. Tell him to go to the door. Tell him to sit once. If he doesn't sit, walk within 3 seconds. Walk away. Wait 1 minute. Then go back and command him to sit again. Only one time. If he doesn't sit this time, I'll walk away for 2 minutes. Next time for 4 minutes. Then for 8 minutes. Keep doubling length of time until eventually, when you go over and sit, he sits down. Or as soon as he sits, you open that door. That becomes the reward. And eventually do it with both directions. I would also make him sit every time he crosses the street on walks. Sit before you open the door to go out on a walk with him. So again, these are all ways to help him start to see and identify as being a follower position. Right now, he's also only fed once a day, and a dog can get low blood sugar, and it can make them irritable as well. And it's not healthy for a dog to only eat once a day, so I'd recommend the guardians go to feeding him twice a day. And the guardians need to eat something first. So make sure the food you put in the bowl is the maximum he should eat for that particular meal. So split out however much you're feeding him now into 2 portions. Make a bigger portion in the morning, a smaller one in the evening. And then you go over there and put food in his bowl. Don't let him eat it. And then you eat 5 or more bites of a chip or a cracker or a piece of carrot or celery or whatever it is. Then you give him permission to eat. Now, when he takes his first bite of food, use that passive training we talked about and give him a command word that means to eat your food. Call it your favorite dish, maybe pasta or sushi or whatever it is. So every time he takes his first bite of food, he hears the word sushi. Well, sushi, every time I hear it, sushi, I have food in my mouth. Sushi must mean I eat. It'll take about a month or 2, but eventually you say sushi and he'll go eat his food. We also talked about passive training and petting with a purpose. Petting with a purpose is rewarding the dog or redirecting the dog into desired actions and behaviors. So if he comes up and nudges me, he's telling me what to do. Well, if I pet him, then I'm reinforcing that, yes, you're in charge of the human. So next time he nudges me, I give him a counter order instead. Tell him to sit. When he sits, pet him under his chin, say the word sit and nothing else. And then you can pet him as long as you want. If he's already sitting here, ask him to sit here or ask him to lay down. He has to do something to change his state to earn that affection. And if he earns the affection, that's going to boost his self-esteem and confidence. It's going to help him respect the humans a little bit more. It's going to help him see the humans as being more of an authority figure. So it really accomplishes several things. It also helps him practice sitting, which is a more subordinate position, potty posture. So anytime he initiates contact with you, you're going to redirect him into something else. If he does it within 3 seconds, you pet him and say the word. If he doesn't, then we just go about doing our thing and he doesn't get rewarded. We don't correct him. We don't punish him. He just doesn't get their attention. Playing a little hard to get really works well with dogs. And now he's like, he'll come start sitting in front of you to prepay for that attention. When he does, make sure we do recognize him. Otherwise, reward him for doing that. Otherwise, he's going to go back to nudging you. Now, even if you just want to pet him and he's not initiating it, still tell him to sit or lay down or do something before you pet him. Now, I recommend using the watchword of paycheck. If you come in the room and someone's petting him, he's standing up, we can assume that he might have forgotten. And we say paycheck, that person has to stop petting. We tell him to sit. When he sits, we pet him on his chin, say sit, and then we tell the person, he sat, but when you close the door, he stood up, and I continued petting him. That's allowed. Now, the other one is passive training. Passive training is waiting for him to organically offer behaviors voluntarily without any influence. This is eventually what he'll do for petting with purpose through prepaying for it. So every time that Scooby comes to me, pet him and say come. Every time he sits, pet him and say sit. Every time he lays down, pet him and say crash. Like I said, every time he takes his first bite of food, say whatever that food is. If he does unusual things, if he stretches, pet him and say stretch. If he brings you a specific toy, name each one of your toys. Maybe call that octopi and carrot, and I don't know what that one is. But the idea is, each toy has its own command word, and that way we can command him to go get that toy, and that can help create more vocabulary, as also helping a nice way to redirect him. It just is very beneficial. Another thing that I found is most dogs that are reactive are insecure. And a great way to help a dog not feel insecure is to boost its self-esteem and confidence. And a great way to do that is to teach dog new tricks or commands. So some of the tricks and commands that I like to teach, the basic sit down, up, stand, heel, stay, things like that. But other ones I would recommend teaching them to roll over and to play dead. And those should be done back to back because they kind of use the same concepts. And so just go to YouTube and search for how to teach your dog to play dead. There will be all these trainers on videos will teach you how to do it. And remember, if the technique that you're starting with isn't working, look for a different trainer that teaches it a different way. There are different ways to achieve these things, and sometimes one thing works better with the dog than the other. Another one that I do is what I call hurricane, where I basically take a treat. When the dog's standing, I put it in front of his nose, and I kind of lure him around into a circle. And when he gets all the way at 360, I pop the treat in his mouth and say the word hurricane. And eventually I can say hurricane, and the dog just does a little circle. You can also do little things, making the dog go through between your legs, fetching you something from the fridge, closing doors, turning on light switches. I mean, there's just a multitude of them on YouTube. Or you just Google funny, easy dog tricks. There will be a whole bunch of things there. Try to set yourself a goal to try to teach him. Each guardian maybe teaches him 2 new tricks or commands a month. So we switch off. Each week one person teaches a trick, and then all week long we practice that trick. Next week the other guardian teaches a command. All week long we practice that command. Go back and forth. An easy one that I like to teach is out. Teaching how to leave the room on command. It's super simple. It's the same way I did with the couch. So what I do is go to there's a door to the kitchen right here to my left. Go to there with a treat, touch his nose with a treat. When he's paying attention, throw the treat 3 feet outside of this room into the next room. When he goes out there and licks it up, say the word out. And then let him come back and repeat it. Go to every doorway in your house and do that twice. Once going out. Then repeat the whole circuit, but this time going into the room. But when I throw the treat in the kitchen, I would say the word kitchen. When I go in the bedroom, I would throw it in the room and say bedroom or dining room or whatever. So now you have a vocabulary. You can tell your dog to go to the kitchen or go to the bedroom, or tell them to leave the room. To be leaving the room is actually a punishment for dogs, so a lot of dogs look at it as a negative. Well, if we make it a positive by throwing a treat out there and he goes out and licks it up and we say the word out, well, now it's a positive and he's motivated to do it, and it's easy for us to communicate that he needs to do, that what we want him to do. One thing I didn't mention, I'm going to go over real quick here, is how to disagree with a dog. I don't like using the word no, because the word no is the 51st most commonly used word in the English language. And dogs have something called learned irrelevance. If a word is used around them enough, they just stop listening for it. No, being such a commonly used word, falls in that category. So I like using a hissing sound like a cat. I can't see his face here, but we'll see if I give him like a medium. I have like 10 hisses. I have a level 1 hiss, which is like I have a level 10, which I have to hold my hand up over my hand because I'm spitting. I'm saying it so intently. So it's the same way a human might say no to someone or yell no at someone. So we want to meet or exceed his energy level. Right now his energy level is probably like, if he's asleep, I would call it a 0. If he's awake, it would be a 1. So if he's like a level 8 and I hiss at a level 1, he won't hear it, or if he hears it, he won't respect it. So I hiss to match his energy level, and I hiss 1 time per incident. A lot of my clients make a bunch of little hisses. That does not make one big hiss. So I saw a little bit of a reaction from him. I use this because cats, skunks, snakes, cougars, mountain lions, even scorpions make a hissing sound as a warning. So if the dog is just programmed to respond to those. I translated no, don't do that, or most effectively, don't even think about doing that. So if one of us is eating food and the dog is walking towards us, remember he shouldn't be within 7 feet of us when we're eating food. So when he gets to 8 feet, if he's walking, I would hiss at 8 once he crosses the 8-foot threshold. If your timing and your intensity is right, the dog will turn around and go the other direction. So that's the first, I have escalated consequences I use to disagree with the dog, is I hiss 1 time per incident, matching the dog's energy level. Second thing I do is I stand up abruptly. When dogs communicate with each other, they do it through a singular, bold, sudden, dramatic movement. A whole lot of little movements that are quick are interpreted as play. A whole lot of slow movements are interpreted as a warning or indecisive. So if he's around another dog and he starts moving in slow motion, he's warning that other dog, you better get away from me. So if you see him start moving slow, immediately move him away from the other dog. That's, again, recognizing his signs and getting him out of trouble before he has to do it himself. But in this case, we want to disagree with the dog. When dogs communicate through movement to say, I'm communicating, they do it through a bold, singular movement, and they pause afterwards to help the other dogs understand that's not just suddenly standing up, the dog is telling me something. So standing up is your I mean business position as a human. If you're not willing to burn the energy to stand up, you really don't mean it. Now, when you stand up, your authority goes whatever direction your hips and your shoulders are pointing at. I usually tell little kids, imagine that you have a string from your belly button going to the dog's collar. Wherever the dog goes, it pivots your hips and shoulders towards that particular dog. Try to do it without moving your feet. So go use the analogy if I'm eating food. Again, he's at 8 feet. I hiss, he turns and walks away. Then I open some French fries, and he's like, oh, I'm going to come and get me some of those. Now he crossed the threshold he crosses the threshold at 7 feet. I would abruptly stand up and snap to face him, turn to face him. Most dogs would take a big step backwards and like, holy cow, things got really serious. Because I was willing to burn the energy to stand up, and now I'm projecting my authority at the dog. Very clearly, he's talking to me. He doesn't want me to cross this line. So I stand up abruptly, turn to face the dog, and what a dog will do is take a step backwards, and then it's going to qualify. Are you talking to me, or did you just get stung in the butt by a bee? So it's going to walk over here. So if the camera is me facing, and I'm the dog, and the camera's facing me, and the dog walks over there, and the camera continues facing this way, the dog's like, ooh, I literally walked away from his authority. So once the dog gets up and walks around, you're going to pivot, keep the dog in front of you, keep your hips and shoulders pointing at the dog without moving your feet until the dog stops moving. When it stands, sits, or lies down, take 2 steps backwards and only 2 steps. One with your left foot, one with your right foot, and then stop for a second. Like I said, when dogs communicate with each other through movement, they put a pause in between each movement. So it's left, right, and stop. And that's a communication to the dog. So the second consequence, stand up abruptly, turn to face the dog, keep it in front of you until it stops moving. As soon as it stops moving, take 2 steps backwards, pause for 1 second, then go back to doing what you're doing. However, if what you're doing is what I'm doing right now and sitting down, when you sit, you lose some perceived authority. You should expect that dog to come over and challenge you again. So if he does, you would repeat the process and stand up. When you're violating, especially because we've been feeding him people food, which we, like I said, shouldn't do, but he's practiced invading personal space is rewarded. So he's going to try to do it several times at first. You're going to have to practice consistently before he gets the message. And eventually he'll just sit or lie down beyond that 7-foot boundary. Okay, that's the second consequence. The third consequence involves giving and taking territory. Front facing is confrontational, sideways is approachable. For him, if you are trying to get him to meet another dog, don't lead him right up to another dog face to face. The idea is taking that curved, rounded approach. When we get to the other dogs, we'd like to let them sniff each other's rear ends or crotches. Never pull them away from that unless the other dog doesn't want to do it. But if he's approaching, he starts staring, getting stiff, or giving those other warning signs, he's saying, I'm not ready to do it. Don't force the issue. We want him to, when he's meeting other dogs, to be so calm and relaxed, he's comfortable doing it. So the third consequence is to stand up abruptly, or if you're already standing, just to snap, turn, or to march deliberately at the dog. Now, if you march at me and I back up a mile, but I'm still facing you, I'm still challenging you as a dog. When I want to understand you, when I want to communicate to you, I understand that you don't disagree with what I'm doing. I'm going to turn sideways to you or greater. So when I say march at the dog, march, I don't mean stopping. I'm moving briskly, so the dog's like going to have a flinching experience. So if I didn't get out of the human's way, he's going to run me over. So we march deliberately at the dog until it turns sideways or greater away from you. At that point, you stop and freeze immediately. Then we wait, and then we go to the second consequence. We pivot, as long as the dog's moving. When it's stationary, take those 2 steps backwards. Pause for 1 second and go back to what we're doing. Now, the only caveat to this is if the dog breaks, let's say it's not supposed to violate the 7-foot boundary, it violates, it gets to 3 feet, I stand up and I march at it, and it turns sideways right away. But it's still within the 7-foot boundary. I would ignore that and bump into the dog and keep walking into the dog until it gets to the 7-foot line. That's where I stop. This is how you enforce an invisible boundary. One of the rules I mentioned is not to be allowed in the kitchen. So you march deliberately at the dog until you get to the threshold where your floor changes from tile or from stone to the wood. That's where you stop enforcing. That's how you communicate to the dog. That's where I don't want you to cross. Now, it's going to have to be repeated over and over, so don't get frustrated if your dog keeps on violating it. It's just being thorough and learning. But eventually, so that's the third consequence, is you march deliberately at the dog until it turns sideways, and then go to the second consequence. Unless it's violating another rule, then you bump into it until it gets outside that boundary. And this is another sidebar. It's not with the escalating consequences, but I'd like you guys to get in the habit of no longer walking around your dog if he's standing in your way. Burning energy is like a form of currency for dogs. If he's standing in my way and I want to walk that way, and I walk all the way around the table so he doesn't have to move, dog's like, so I didn't have to burn my energy. The human burned a lot of extra energy, so I didn't have to. That must mean I have more status than he has. So what I would like you to do instead is walk through the dog as if the dog's not even there, if he's standing. I want a choreography. I want him to identify as a mindset. When a human's coming, my job is to get out of the human's way. That's another subtle way for him to define himself as being in a follower position. Leaders don't defer to followers. Followers do defer to leaders. Now, if he's sitting or lying down, kicking him or nudging him or saying, get out of the way, that's just being a jerk. You can walk around him at that point. But if he's standing, his job is to get out of your way because your job is not to get out of his way. He has less authority. Let me think. How many chew toys does he have, by the way?
It's like 5.
Okay. A dog should have a minimum of 20 chew toys at all times. And a variety of chew toys is really important. For a big guy like this, we want to have some hard toys. Antlers, probably elk antlers for a guy his big. Nylabones, Nylabones. They come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes. The ones we get look like a skeleton bone. Don't get one. You can get 1 or 2 of those. But I have one that looks like a Tyrannosaurus. I have one that looks like a forearm. I have one that's a letter Y. I have a round one that's kind of the shape of a donut. I have different flavors. Some of them are barbecue. Some of them are bacon. I don't like getting the chicken ones because those taste like everything. Joke. But basically get a variety of those. And then I also would get him some real bones. They're boiled, so they won't have any meat on them. You can get them with marrow or stuff. I wouldn't get it with marrow, but sometimes they have a filler in. They don't have to do that, but you can go to Petco or PetSmart or Amazon or Chewy. If you guys go to Chewy, probably cheaper to get them there. Just get a boiled bone. Dogs can have raw bones. They can't have smoked or cooked bones. They will splinter. So that's why we want boiled bones for those. And so he should have at least 2 bones, at least 2 antlers, at least 2 or 3 different Nylabones. And then I would also get him a water buffalo horn. Make sure it's solid, or at least the walls of it are at least a 1/4 inch round, probably for about a thick, maybe a 1/3 to a 1/2 inch thick for him. It will probably outlast the dog. Now, it will smell nasty, the water buffalo horn, for a couple of days, maybe a week or 2, but after that, it'll lose the smell. It'll probably outlast the dog. It's probably the most durable thing you'll buy. All of these things are not cheap, but he's going to have them for a long time. When dogs get stressed out, they often chew things. If chewing is not available, often they have developmental issues like being frustrated or aggressive or angry, or sometimes they start licking themselves. And he's got a lot of rust color on him. When we have a white dog and it's rust, it means it's from the saliva. And so, especially where he's licking tells me he's a little bit stressed out. So he might need a little bit more exercise, a little bit more stimulation, and also need some appropriate things to chew on. So what I would do is get yourself a wire mesh basket, something you could fit all these new toys in, and don't give him all the toys at once, just give him 1 new toy a day. If you're using the dog bed, that's where he should find it. He's outside, leave a new toy in his dog bed. He comes inside, there's another treat here. There's another toy here. Just like us, if every time we go to a restaurant we find a $100 bill in the lobby, you can bet that we're gonna eat at that restaurant a lot. Well, every time he comes in, there's a treat or a new toy on the dog bed. He's going to be more interested in doing that. And if he's stressed and he has something to chew on, he can let his anxiety out by chewing, which is one of the ways that dogs calm themselves and soothe themselves. And instead of licking on himself, you can give him something else to do. Now, if you do see him licking himself, that's a good indicator that we need to take him to the stairs and do 5 minutes of up-downs on the stairs, or the laser, or play fetch, or whatever it is. Or it'd be a nice way to redirect him to getting a new toy. Now, some other things you can get him these aren't necessarily toys, but they're kind of a hybrid between toys and food, are ingestible or edibles. Now, I don't mean the edibles like people have in California or Colorado. I mean a doggy edible. So my favorite one for dogs are a kneecap. If you go to a place called the Green Spot, I'll give you a coupon if I don't forget. You'll get $5 off. Go to the Green Spot, get a cow's knee, get a cow's ear. They also sell tracheas. They sell chicken feet, duck feet, and turkey feet. Also turkey, duck, and chicken heads. Those are also good for them to have. Cow's cheeks are much better. Raw hides are soaked in bleach, ammonia, formaldehyde, and other nasty chemicals, and because they ingest them, they lead to health issues. So I don't like giving them raw hides. But there's a whole bunch of cod skin, all sorts of edible stuff like that you can give to the dog. Now, that should be a 1-a-day sort of thing. But eventually, like if we're going to get him around other dogs, maybe when we get to the point where it can get it closer, giving him something to chew on to preoccupy him. Now, the fights that he's had has been over toys. So when he's playing with other dogs, I would not have him around other toys or any toys around. But when he's at home, it's important for him to have some here. Now, the Guardians were asking about how to get him together with other dogs. The roadmap I like is to practice for a month, working on rules and structure, petting with a purpose, passive training, enforcing these rules consistently for a month so that he gets into a habit of obeying the rules on his own, not because you're correcting him, because he knows he's not allowed on the couch or within 7 feet of you when you're eating or whatever it is. Once that's the case, then, and you've developed the focus exercise at the same time, then really, so we're basically January. So maybe in February, somewhere in terms of February, if you're doing well, go to a dog park and start doing the exercise I talked about at the beginning of this video. Getting him to look away from the other dogs. But remember, the key, the crucial element, he cannot react. So keep on moving away until you find that distance he reacts. And when you get there, if he gets too worked up at a certain distance, you might have to walk him completely away from the dog park and then start walking back. Try to walk in the same place that you want him to be, so you can kind of watch him as you're walking back to the dog park, and you can take note of how close you are. If you're walking away from the dog park, sometimes they're too close and they get worked up, and it takes a long time for them to settle down. If you're walking towards the dog park, then you can watch him as he gets more and more worked up and see where he gets to his breaking point. Stop before we get further than his breaking point. Make sure he's sitting. Again, if he gets up, he's an indicator that's too intense or too close. And keep on practicing at 50 yards or however yards it is until when you say he sees another dog, he automatically gives you that autofocus. Only then get a little bit closer and keep repeating that process until you're within a couple feet of the entrance. Now, if you have a dog that comes out of the car and it's barking and running around, you're probably going to need more distance. So there will be a little bit of ebb and flow. If you have a dog with his energy walking the dog park, you might be able to get closer, where a puppy that's barking and going crazy, you might have to double the length. That's okay, and you're going to have ebbs and flows. Just keep it consistent with it. But if he does get worked up, move him away, wait for him to settle down before you come back. And that's the other thing, is all the other stuff that we're talking about, you're going to have ebb and flows with those as well. He's going to be on the rules, and all of a sudden he's just going to start breaking all the rules. I get a panic call. It's not working anymore. He just remembered the way it was. He's just trying to go back to it. Just stay the course and be consistent. Petting with a purpose. After a while, he stopped nudging you, and then he'll go back to it. Stay consistent. Eventually, he'll just stick with what you want him to do. But this way, he knows what acts and behaviors his guardians want because they pet him for those acts and behaviors. He's getting a mindset of following their instructions, of doing things that please them, of looking away from other dogs, getting more stimulation and exercise. All these things are going to have a comprehensive impact on him. Now, it'll be sometime in February that you're able to start doing the focus exercise at the dog park, and you'll be able to get closer and closer and closer. Now, when you get to the part where, like in March, if you hit a wall or anything, really for anything, please text me. Don't wait till March. Text me right away. But your roadmap is I want you to focus the first month on building up some new skills, teaching the focus exercise, enforcing rules and boundaries, and petting with a purpose and passive training. Second month, I want you to start going to the dog park. Try to do that, set a goal for maybe doing it like twice a week at first, and then 3 times a week, 4 times a week. Eventually it gets to the point where hopefully you're doing it every day, and the more you practice it, the more faster progress you'll make. Remember, don't go closer until you have 5 times in a row when he gives you an auto watch before you take that step closer. And then if you get to the point where we're in March sometime or April, and we can't get past it, we might need to set up a follow-up session to do some back training, which is where we actually create a situation where we bring another dog out, help him practice non-aggressive behaviors at a distance that he feels comfortable with. And this is a situation where we'll bring a dog out that I'll control with one of my people so that we don't have to worry about what distance, and we know what the dog's energy level is in the whole 9 yards. Okay, well, is there anything else I forgot that you guys want me to go over?
I think we're good.
All right. Well, this handsome devil is Scooby. And, one last thing. The treats I'm going to leave you have no preservatives. That's why they work so well. When it comes to food, the most important thing in the dog is the smell. Temperature is second. Taste is a distant third. Make sure you fold the bag over and burp all the air out of it before you zip it shut, or they'll be as hard as nuts the next time you open the bag, and they won't work as well. And you get those on Amazon. I believe at Chewy as well, or Petco or PetSmart. But the ones I use are the Chicken Trainer chicken liver flavored treats, because they have a really strong aroma. It works really, really well. And you want to make sure you have a really high value meat-based treat when you're doing the focused exercise, because you're asking him to give up something that is very intense for him. You need to have a very intense reward, or what we call reinforcer. All right, well, this is Scooby, and this is Scooby's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.